Wild coaches, they had some wild players in those days. They had guys who kind of inept, and the best thing they could do is run as far as away from the defending lineman and throw the ball. And sometimes it took on a kind of a Charlie Chaplin-esque appearance out there.
In true slapstick fashion, the Chicago Cardinals of the 1950s walked a path laden with banana peels. Footballs were thrown like pies, and there were chases worthy of the Keystone Cops. Like slapstick movie characters, the Cardinals thrived on ridiculous situations that enabled them to display uncommon resourcefulness. From chaos, the Cardinals created high comedy, and it was high comedy created in a low-budget environment.
We didn't have very good equipment. The Cardinals at that time, the word class never came close to us. We rode the train to games, train to Cleveland, train to Green Bay, wherever we went. It was just it was not the big leagues.
We played at Comiskey Park in those days, which was the home of the White Sox, so they used to sod the infield. And we had scored a touchdown, so it was on the south end of the field, which was the sodded portion. And Billy Cross went in to hold for Joe Gary. Well, the ball was snapped. Joe goes through the motion, makes a kick, and ref throws his hand up in the air. The stands all yell, and what had happened is that Joe had actually kicked a piece of sod had gone over the goalpost. And Billy Cross, I'll never forget, I happened to be looking at Billy, and the look on his face, because there he is still holding the ball.
The team was usually left holding the bag during a decade in which they totaled a mere 33 wins. They boasted but one true superstar, halfback Ollie Matson, whose speed made him seem less a man than a force of nature.
I can remember hearing him go by. It was like the windstorm going by. And I never heard anything like that before. He was just so fast that he created a breeze when he went by.
Matson, number 33, was a rushing, receiving, and return threat, whose many talents would earn him a place in the Hall of Fame. The Cards got a lot out of Matson, and when they eventually traded him, they got a lot for him, or so it seemed.
The Cardinals traded Ollie Matson to the Los Angeles Rams for 11 ball players. Of the 11, 9 had to be classified as garbage. Absolute garbage. I think 6 or 7 of them never showed up because they were real dogs.
The Matson trade was one of several unusual personnel decisions.
We drafted a quarterback from Ohio State one year, number 1. And we said, oh, super, boy, we needed a quarterback badly. And I, being a receiver, thought I wish we'd get somebody to get the ball to me. And lo and behold, the fellow showed up and started throwing a ball, and he couldn't get the ball 15 yards down the field. And we found out the reason they drafted him, because they liked his picture in the street in Smith. He had nice legs and looked well proportioned and looked like a real football player.
But even if the team's quarterbacks weren't picture perfect, they did fit into an offense that somehow managed to move the ball forward without benefit of the forward pass. During the 1950s, sleight of hand was the Cardinals' trademark, and the tricks of their trade induced gasps of astonishment from an awestruck audience.
Although we didn't win many games, we were exciting to watch because really sometimes the players didn't know what was going to happen.
A lot of those plays really were not designed plays, needless to say. By looking at them, you could tell they weren't designed plays. I can remember the 5 head coaches that I played for in 5 years. And sometimes they just throw up their hands in disgust because of the way that some of those zany plays would turn out.
One head coach who devised creative methods of indicating his disgust was Joe Steidehar.
He had a very unique way of paying us. He'd bring in a fistful of brown envelopes which contained our paychecks. And he would have seen the game films, and he would write a little note on each player about his performance in the previous game, such things as, I always thought you had no guts, and now after watching the film, it's confirmed. And I remember once we had to play the Bears the last game of the season. And he came storming in the door of the dressing room, threw the checks across the dressing room. They scattered all over the floor. Told us to fight for our own checks. And he says, if you guys don't beat the Bears next week, I'm not paying any of you. I'm finding you a game salary. Well, that's the only game we won that year. We beat the Bears at Wrigley Field 24-10.
For a while, the Cardinals always seemed to cash in against the Bears. From 1950 to 1955, the Cards won 6 out of 9 meetings from their more successful neighbors from the North Side. This crosstown rivalry gave the Cardinals an opportunity to steal the thunder from the team that reigned supreme in the Windy City.
The media, we felt, was always tainted towards the North Side, the Chicago Bears. We never had that. On the South Side, I can remember playing games in Comiskey Park in the 50s where there were 6,000 or 7,000, 9,000 people in the stands. Wrigley Field was always sold out.
But when the Bears went down to play the Cardinals in Comiskey Park, the place was packed. I mean, and it turned into a riot every time. All the games I played against the Cardinals when I was with the Bears ended up in a fight.
But while the Cardinals often won the battles, the Bears ultimately won the war for territorial rights to the toddling town. In 1960, the Cardinals moved to St. Louis, signaling the end of a colorful era. During the 1950s, the Chicago Cardinals didn't produce many victories, but their offbeat and exciting style of play produced plenty of thrills and made them one of the most entertaining teams in NFL history.